I'm gonna need one thing from you.
What?
Just one thing.
What?
I need you to keep your panties on.
So Stuart Ogg from Australia donated money
Yeah?
to the Whiskey Vault.
Why is this so empty?
I may or may not really like this
You
whiskey.
son of a bitch. Stuart Ogg, he's a son of a bitch. You're a magnificent bastard.
Stuart, this won't be the last whiskey we purchase with your donation.
Man.
Stuart donated a significant amount
Like, seriously, I have one question.
instead of trying to mail something to us.
I don't begrudge anybody who appreciates a good whiskey. I have one question. Mm-hmm. Where the was I?
I may or may not have not told you about this one. So here's what happened.
I may or may not tell you about things that I'm going to do in this room. Before, there was like this kind of just professional courtesy. Hey, heads up.
This is a really good one.
I annihilated about $1,600 worth of whiskey. Just letting you know.
I just said something.
Professional courtesy out the window.
Everyone rants about no age statement whiskeys. Oh, it's an excuse to release subpar and blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Not everybody.
Not a lot of
Lots
people.
of people.
Lots of people.
Sure.
Or, at least they worry about it.
Yes.
They worry that it's an excuse.
Right.
And I say case by case basis.
Sure. Because you can absolutely abuse something like that.
Yep.
But it also opens up the door to a lot of experimentation.
Yeah, it takes the handcuffs off of master distillers to let them blend something they would have found truly interesting without being tied to an age statement. So we went to a tasting with John Campbell, the master distiller at Laphroaig. Halle and I, and Tommy and Emma, actually.
Okay.
And he brought out John, and it was so weird because to me, it was like seeing Bono walk into the room. Right, John Campbell, because Laphroaig is one of my favorites.
Right.
So John Campbell walks in, and he's just this kind of understated, really calm and generous and quiet individual. And
you really didn't.
We're in specs.
You didn't need to throw your panties up.
I know. We're in specs, and there's John Campbell, and there's like a table in the grill. So
He's just like
we're just out in a store, and they have a counter, and Simon Brooking, the rep, is there with him, and there's just people walking around.
You can finish your story. I just imagine this guy is very understated, very humble. After these events, goes out to the trunk of his car, opens it up, and it's full of panties. He just throws it on the floor.
There's another one.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so there's just people just walking around shopping who have no idea what's going on, no idea that the master distiller of Laphroaig. Wait.
Are you gonna dig?
No. Hey, no, be easy, because this is hard to get. So, he says, I want to get out this whiskey for you guys that I created.
Okay.
That he blended.
He did.
It was his idea. And he wanted to create a whiskey that represented the spirit of Laphroaig throughout the years.
Okay.
The essence of Laphroaig.
Sure.
Right? This may be the single richest Laphroaig you have ever tasted. And I think it is a good 30% more interesting than the 32-year-old Laphroaig that we had in the vault. That was $1,000 a bottle.
I'm making a list of all the comparisons we need to do.
The only thing that came close to this complexity was the Ardbeg Dark Cove.
Obviously, the classic Laphroaig tin.
Now, some of this goes back as far as 1993.
You're not scurrying over.
No, not yet. I want to enjoy this one first. For me, this is a moment. I've been looking forward to this review and this whiskey for a while now. So, some of the whiskey blended in this.
So,
1993. 93.
Yeah.
Right? You were like 10 years old.
I was 13.
I was starting high school.
He's older than me.
I was in high school. I wasn't starting. I was in high school.
I get more of a tobacco and less of a meatiness. From Laphroaig tin, I imagine it is more meaty. This is more tobacco.
Yes, and just a good rich pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
This is not the Laphroaig that is you aggressive, even though it has the peat and the brine.
Right.
So compared to the Laphroaig family, this has that sherry cask, European cask. First fill sherry, first fill bourbon, refill bourbon, and whiskey finished in European ex-sherry hogshead.
Man, that's
48%. That's a taste preference right there, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this to me, if I hadn't already thrown underwear at John Campbell's head, and I still had some left, after trying this one, I would have at that moment. I may or may not have shouted, "I'll have your babies."
Listening to you.
In specs.
Listening to you. Yeah, he's had enough. He's had enough. No more for that guy. I would say this is probably going to land in your, the top 5, top 10? Just listening to you.
Just period across the board, all whiskey.
Top 5 or 10?
This lands in my top 10.
Top 10, okay.
Yeah.
Top 10. Yeah. Black pepper and, like I said, much more of a tobacco note than a savory, meaty note that I often get from Laphroaig. You get that brine, that saltiness, and it's not. There's no bit of it that's like sharp or bitey. It's just really rounded off. But it's not any watered down flavor. You still get the full richness, full body of all of those Laphroaig flavors that you love.
And each time you come back to this whiskey, you find something different. It's not like rediscovering the same nose every time. It's, this time I got the iodine. Next time, I got the sherry. There's the sherry barrel.
Yeah. I think
there's butter. There's buttered strawberry pastries.
Soup. I think the iodine is on this. You said that, and I was like, oh, how have I not said iodine? I think it's stronger on this than it is on
the tin. No.
Yeah, I think so. We'll compare.
No.
I think the iodine is stronger on this than the tin.
Now, on the taste, it does a similar thing to that Brenriach that we just did, where it unfolds the same way that the nose does, with the same complexity and the same diversity.
Yeah.
And it just keeps changing. You know what it reminds me of? You remember when you were a kid, you had those kaleidoscopes, you could just turn one end of it, and while it faced the light, and all the shapes change shapes?
Sure.
That's this whiskey to me.
Okay.
It's all the patterns and colors are stable, but the shapes and interaction, as you spin it towards the light, it just keeps unfolding on itself.
This is like whiskey inception. There is a sweetness there.
Oh man, if you let this spread this around on your palate, just give it 10 seconds, spread it everywhere, and all the bite of iodine vanishes. It becomes all fruit.
What is the sweetness from?
Sherry barrel.
Okay.
Yeah, sherry barrel finished.
All right, because it's just bouncing on top of all of it throughout sweetness.
That's what I say. So go back to it. And man, the aftertaste, this is oily. This lingers for a while. But move it all around, don't swallow it. And what you'll notice is all that iodine that showed up in the nose and the front of the taste, it goes away. And you're left with all of the sweet fruit notes behind.
Almost like an apricot now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, so good.
I think he likes it a lot.
I really do.
Peloton Productions. Here's a nerdy question for Daniel as he gets me all of those comparisons he was listing before. What's the impact of the yeast used in the mash in the final whiskey?
Oh, I have nerded out on this moment.
There's an incredible variety of yeast brewers use for their beers that have completely flavor profiles, but I don't see a lot of talk about yeast flavors in whiskey. You mentioned Jester King, and my mind immediately went to whiskey made with wild yeast strains. Jester King's right down the road, by the way.
Yeah. And Jeffrey is a guy that we know and dig.
Yeah. No, super good.
So I'll answer that question because it's interesting. Here's a Laphroaig 10, just to give you a comparison of the base level Laphroaig. And here's what I would consider to be another really complex Isla.
Wow, do you know...
Which is the Ardbeg Dark Cove.
The Laphroaig 10 isn't a little baby whiskey. Compared to the Lore, this is just sweet candy, like really light.
You mean the Lore is? Compared
to the Lore, the richness that I get, the complexity that I get out of the tin.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on in the tin.
Oh yeah. It's not a boring whiskey.
But coming off the heels of a Lore, the tin is much more tame and sweet. And
yeah, the tin sort of became friendly and pretty and
which for Laphroaig.
Try a sip, and you're back to the iodine honeyed brine. This is a 2 or 3 note finish, whereas the Lore is a 12 note finish.
But damn it, man, the 10.
That's just a damn classic.
It's a classic, yeah.
Okay, this. I know I was smelling the wrong one. Yeah, okay, there we go. So this is the Ardbeg Dark Cove.
Okay.
And this one shows up with even more of that sweet, compared to the
Dark Cove?
Yeah, but it's more plum.
Okay, he was talking.
The Dark Cove is the only Islay whiskey I've had that compares to the complexity of Lore. So here's the thing about yeast. Americans care a lot about yeast. Scots, not so much. The general experience with yeast in Scotland is, yeah, it makes alcohol. The end. Right? As long as it turns into alcohol, we're going to distill it anyway. So the majority of the flavor profile is going to become irrelevant once it's distilled. In beer, it's a big deal. Yeast can make or break an entire flavor profile. In whiskey, it's distilled afterwards, and so you eliminate a lot of the complexity created by yeast. Now in America, and I don't know why this is, I have a theory that it may be involved in beer culture a little bit, but a lot of American distilleries are obsessed with yeast. For example, Four Roses has 5 yeast profiles that they use across 2 mash bills to create 10 completely unique whiskeys according to them.
So, is the process, are they only switching up the yeast?
They're switching up the yeast and the mash bills.
Okay.
So,
wait.
5 yeasts, 2 mash bills.
Okay.
10 final whiskeys.
So, the argument can absolutely be made then that yeast makes a noticeable difference.
Well, here's what I would say. I've tried the yeast variations.
Oh, okay.
And the difference is under the 10 percentile, maybe even under the 5 percentile
so small,
in the flavor profile.
Small differences.
And you don't really even know how much of it was because of the barrel aging was in a different part of the warehouse.
Sure. Okay.
It's not a 20 to 30% difference.
All right.
Right? It's subtle, and you've got to know Four Roses like the back of your hand to notice the variations. So it's just not as big of a deal when you're distilling shit.
I'm getting more honey sweetness out of Dark Cove than I ever got before. The Lore, to me, people that were like just peaty, the island, smoky, kind of.
Not Lore.
Well, no. Not the beat you up experience, but they like the rich, dark, heavy, strong
Then
experience.
yes, okay.
Absolutely the
I
Lore.
get that.
Because the Laphroaig 10 and the Ardbeg Dark Cove, as much as those have a reputation for being like, Isla, brr, these are comparatively pretty light and sweet compared to a Lore, which isn't aggressive and harsh. Trying to thread the needle here. It's not big and angry and aggressive and harsh. It's bigger, louder flavors, but they're really balanced and well-rounded.
You know what it is? It's Placebo, the band.
Oh, just son of a...
It's the band Placebo.
Yeah.
Do you like Placebo?
Yes, this is fine. There's like 5 bands that Daniel always talks about.
No, Placebo, because Placebo gets aggressive and loud and really distorted in rock, but behind it all, there's a really heavy melodic drive.
I want to do...
There's a melody.
I've told Daniel about this. I want to do music and whiskey pairings.
Yeah, I think we should.
And there's so many bands that I listened to growing up that you have no idea, and vice versa. As a musician, I like good music, ironically. He's the musician. I like the good music.
Whatever.
So whatever he listens to.
Whatever.
It's just unfortunate.
Man, we go down the music path, just prepare to be left in the damn dust.
Yeah. You do realize like every other video is going to be tagged and flagged just by the bots.
Yeah.
In YouTube. And the thing is, it wouldn't be anything they were doing that is actually, it's not actually illegal. It'll fit squarely under the umbrella of fair use, but automation, they don't care. The algorithm doesn't f***ing care. It's just going to take it off regardless. And then you have to prove your case otherwise.
Yeah. All right. I think we're good here.
Yeah.
Here's to fighting, stealing, and drinking.
If you fight, may you fight for a friend.
If you steal, may you steal a lover's heart.
And if you enjoy a trunk full of panties, may you trunk full of panties with Daniel and his Laphroaig Lore. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us in the Whiskey Vault. Don't forget to throw in a like, hit that subscribe button on the bottom right, drop a question or comment down below.